Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Team Tally, a parental pilgrimage with a micro preemie. I knew I would eventually get it right. So, yay. It only took 5 episodes. I'm Mike Kirkland, dad, Stephanie Kirkland, mom.
Hey everybody.
She's here with me as always. I wouldn't be able to do anything I do without her, especially when she gives me permission. That helps. So, uh, I thought we could talk this week about the first time we got to hold Tally in the hospital, which was a pretty big deal. It's always a big deal the first time they hand you your newborn baby. But for us, it was, what was it? It was a week or two before they let us hold her. It was a couple of weeks at
It was
least, right?
2 weeks when I got to hold her.
2 weeks. And she was only 2 pounds when she was born. And she had all those tubes attached to her. So there's an innate fear with even a full term baby of, oh my God, what if I drop the baby? Especially if it's your first, because maybe it's not less if it's your third, and still, oh God, what if I drop this baby? It doesn't really go away. But Tally was so tiny that it was that compounded with, oh God, what if I really drop this baby? Or even less than that. What if I just hold her too tight? Or hold her the wrong way? Because we had talked about the brain bleeds. You could just hold the baby the wrong way and cause irreparable damage. At least in my head, that's what I felt.
I mean, I think the scariest part was all the tubes and the nurses having to hand her to you from the incubator to the chair. Usually they had to have a partner, so there was three of us trying to get this teeny tiny preemie baby out of her incubator to have some skin on skin time with her mom or dad. And one time while holding her in the ventilator came unhooked and I had to hurry and call for a nurse. So it's not just as easy as, oh, let's hold our baby. It's quite the process to get your baby who's hooked up to ventilators to be able to breathe and eat, feeding tubes, just to be able to hold for at least 30 minutes. They required this to hold for at least 30 minutes or in order to get her out of the incubator. And then they're constantly checking her temperature, making sure she can keep her temperature up, because at that point she's so small that the incubator is what is keeping her at a regular temperature, not her body fat or her, muscles, because she doesn't have them at that point. So
And they had her in the incubator. They had to, we had to sit in the recliner, and you had to arrange the recliner just really close to the incubator. And then the nurse would open the incubator and try and get all of her tubes and stuff moved around and settled up so that they could pick her up. And at first, the first few times especially, they handed her to you. And then one day they're like, do you want to pick her up? And you're like, uh, do I? I mean, I do, but, you know, well, I'll say that the first time I actually did it, picked her up myself, it was it was amazing, but it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I think I can safely say that.
it took probably a couple weeks before I ever felt comfortable picking her up out of the incubator, just because she was so tiny and so fragile, and other health issues other than just the um, sorry, she had other health issues other than just being hooked up to a ventilator. That one wrong turn would make for some severe problems down the road or right then. So I would say it was probably at least either 2 to 3 weeks, because even 2 weeks after holding her, she had her brain surgery, so we still couldn't just pick her up as we pleased. So I think when she got extubated and she wasn't on so many tubes is when I finally was the most comfortable taking care of myself. And still at that point, she's in the incubator, so you still have to have the nurses help you, because you have to open the incubator, get all the tubes, and get situated. So it's definitely more than a one-person job.
definitely. And even, we were of course afraid of dropping her, but at first, especially, she was so tiny. I was afraid. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was afraid that I could even just turn her the wrong way and like break a bone or something. Or like when they would, get her situated on our chest or something like that. I was afraid she could even just slip and roll and even like break her neck or something like that. Like she was so tiny, I was afraid something like that could happen just at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some preemies are more susceptible to brittle bones or weak bones, so there's definitely the scariness. The whole situation is just not normal as far as being able to hold your baby for the first time. I remember the day actually I was been waiting and waiting and waiting to hold her, and I can't remember what the ventilator was called, but she was on the one ventilator that kept her beats going like so fast. And so when they finally got her heart off of that ventilator and her lungs situated where she could just be on an everyday ventilator, is when they decided that we could hold her. And I was actually supposed to meet up with my mom and my sister's friend Jolene for lunch. They were coming into town, and I was sitting there just looking at the baby, looking at my baby girl, touching her. And the nurse supervisor came in, and she was like, "Oh, I remember you because when we were at the hospital the first couple of days, your mom was here and you wanted her to be able to come in, but unfortunately that didn't work out." And so she got with my nurse and she told her, hey, she's been waiting for 2 weeks to hold her baby. So it wasn't even something planned. I was just up there and it was the right timing. And so I told my mom and my sister, I said, you guys are going to have to do lunch without me because I get to hold my baby today. And it was something I'd waited on. It was only 2 weeks, but it felt like an eternity. It just felt like it was never going to happen. And you're up at the hospital for hours every day, and all you can do is put your hands to the holes in the incubator, touch her to let her know that you're there. And the first time we got to hold was skin to skin, and it was just me and her, and it was just an amazing moment for me. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Like, it wasn't in my plans, but nothing with Talley but in my plans. It's all been on her plans and her schedule. So that first day that I got to hold her and we had that first bonding time together was just like nothing I'll ever forget. To hold her, it's even hard to even remember her being so small because even being born at 2 pounds, she lost some weight like most babies do. So she was less than probably 2 pounds when we actually got to hold her. And just to hold something the size of like, I don't know, a big potato maybe. It's just something you'll never forget. But to look at her now, 20 plus pounds, it is like just a little memory of her being so tiny, and now she's just a growing little weed. So
And I think I got to hold her the first time probably 2 days later or 3 days later or something like that. Because I had to work and I didn't get to come up there until like I think it was that Saturday or something like that.
yeah, and we hadn't. It wasn't planned for me to hold her that day. It just happened that the nurse supervisor was like, "Do you want to hold your baby?"
You're like, can I?
I will stay here all night long if I have to, so I can hold her. So
Yeah. And the first time I held her, it was probably it had gone from, scariest thing imaginable, picking her up, but holding her and just getting her nuzzled, and that was skin to skin also. So, they're like they don't care. You take your shirt off and they get a blanket to put around you and all that stuff to keep you warm and her warm. So, but just feeling her, she always had an affinity for nuzzling into my chest hair. So she started doing that pretty early on. But she just slept so well. Like she just knew who that was. She knew it was mom and she knew it was dad. And she would just nuzzle up and go to sleep. And then you're trying to, well, I'll say like my butt would go to sleep because the recliners. I mean, it's a hospital recliner, so it's not bad, but it's not great either. But your butt goes to sleep, your legs go to sleep, and the first time I held her, I think I sat there with her for it was it was probably almost like 2.5 hours or 3 hours, something like that, because it was a Saturday, and I forget what you were doing, but they were like, "Do you want to keep holding her?" I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Are you getting tired?" I'm like, "I'm sitting. Trust me, I'm not tired." So I'm pretty sure 3/4 of my body was numb by the time I actually got up, but I was not about to budge until I absolutely had to. And they finally made me put her down because they wanted to do their 5 o'clock measurements and stuff, all that other stuff. But it was probably like the single greatest moment of my life that first time holding her. I was just, I took a few pictures. When the nurse wasn't looking, and you're like, uh, but it was. I, I feel like I'm just repeating myself. I just don't have the words for it. And she always responded well. I think maybe it's just me. She could probably tell the difference between us and if one of the volunteers was holding her. I think she could. I don't know that, but I assume it.
There were days when I would come in and her heart rate was either elevated or her oxygen was low, and it was like as soon as you could get that skin to skin on time with her, she would just even out. Because I mean, what kid, baby, child, even adult doesn't want their parents when they don't feel good? And she was sick for the good part of the first month or two that she was in the NICU. So just having your parent there can calm you and help you get better or make you just have more restful peace to be held and loved and, just snuggled. So,
And that's any baby. That's not even just a full term newborn benefits so
I
much
mean, I'm
from.
not, yeah, I would say not even just a baby. Like, if I don't feel good, sometimes I'm like, hey, where's my mom? And I'm a grown adult.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I
you don't like
know,
crawl under her shirt or anything,
no.
but
But even when Miles, he's 3, he wants to cuddle and snuggle, and sometimes you just want your parent, you
yeah.
know?
I mean,
So,
when I feel bad, I want to cuddle and snuggle too. So.
yeah. So,
Of course, I always get worse diseases than everybody else, so I
yeah, right.
naturally feel worse.
Yeah. We
So
all get the same diseases in this house. I wouldn't even say diseases,
no,
viruses.
I get the worst versions. No, but any baby, even a full term baby, there's documented evidence that they do better with skin to skin contact, not just with mom, with dad too. So dad, it's a good excuse to get your shirt off and walk around strutting it out. And
I don't think you have to have an excuse.
no, but it gives you one though. Say, oh, it's good for the baby, and people are like, yeah, but you're at the mall. And you're like, baby, and hope nobody calls the cops.
It was nice when she moved to her second room and she hit the 3 pound mark and was able to keep her body temperature elevated when she went into open air crib. Because then we could just walk in and hold her. We didn't have to have a nurse. We just got, full access to her. And it wasn't, if you can't be here for a certain amount of time, we can't get her out of the incubator for you. That's because when I would get back to work and I would have to go in the morning before work, I wouldn't be able to commit 3 hours in the morning, or 3 hours afterwards. I'd have to get home to the kids. So when she finally got to be the big girl and wear clothes and keep her temperature up, and we could just walk in and hold her at will, then it sure made life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. That was when she reached a certain size and was able to maintain her weight. She didn't have to be in the incubator, so she was in an open air container. Like it was basically a bed with, it was like a bin basically. But so we didn't need the help getting her out. We still had to deal with her tubes and stuff, but it was a little easier to manage. It's lower. There's nothing to open up. And by then too, she was a lot bigger, so it was a lot less daunting to just go in and you could just kind of scoop her up and wheel the recliner over there and sit down and get the blanket. And even even then, she still responds very well. She'd go right to sleep on us. She'd even kind of drool a little bit sometimes. And then there were times also when she would not sleep and she would just, squirm around and try and move around because she was just not having a nap time. And you had to keep moving her around and say, no, you're not going to get off of me today. You're going to stay right there. And I enjoyed when we were still, when we would get to help do her weight and stuff and take care of her. And it was really, really convenient too because we could, we would hold her for a while and then when it was time to do her vitals at like 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever, and we could just put her back in the incubator and then we would do that stuff for the nurse. And then if we were, sticking around for a while, we could just get her back out and let her go back to sleep if we had the time to commit because she was going to go to sleep after that stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be very, in addition to just holding her, we got to be very hands on with with her care. I was going to say her maintenance, but
Hands on.
yes, very involved. We get to ask all sorts of questions. The nurses were like, "Oh, definitely, if you want to do it, please do it." I remember the first diaper I got to change, and I was like, because the diapers are like this big, the first ones. They were so tiny, and they still had to be rolled down. They were like doll diapers.
Yep. Micro preemie diapers.
Mm-hmm. Even preemie diapers would have dwarfed her.
Yep.
Because even though, I mean, because they were probably made for at least a 4 pound baby.
Yeah, mine's were preemies and he was 5 pounds.
Mm-hmm. So even those they had to be like folded down and stuff. And even, I think even the first 2 weeks, they said to be careful touching her skin at all, which didn't help when they were like, oh yeah, sure, you can pick her up if you want. And you're like, what happened to not touching the skin? Is that still a thing or no? So,
Yeah.
but never underestimate the power of holding a baby against your skin, like skin to skin contacts for any baby. So you definitely have to do it. I mean, you should want to anyway because it's awesome. I think she's never really had any problems going to sleep in our arms.
She's we went through a really good term of sleeping with her when she came home from the hospital. And then as she got older, I would rock her to sleep and try to lay her down and she would always wake up. And now you just lay her in her bed and she just goes right to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Right to sleep. She doesn't fuss. She doesn't make any noise. If anything, she just lays there and talks to herself until she goes to sleep. But she's a phenomenal sleeper 95% of the time.
She's the best sleeper in the house, and I'm including us adults with that. She sleeps great. She went through a little phase where she figured out that we bring Miles in about 30 minutes later to put him in his bed because they share a room. And she would just lay in bed quietly, laying down, make a sound, and wait for mom to bring brother in. And as soon as they would start creeping into the room, her head would pop up and she would start screaming at you, like, aha, I caught you. So we'd have to sneak back out and use our little owlet camera in there to peek and see if she was awake, which didn't always work because she was laying down. She knew we were watching and she was pretending to be asleep. But thankfully, that phase didn't last that long. It's probably good 2 or 3 weeks, maybe tops. And she just now will just go right to sleep. Sometimes not even a cry at all. It's awesome. I wish Miles would do that.
Yeah, Miles is never going to do that.
I know. It would be nice though.
So this week's video was going to be about holding Tally. And it has been, but also it's been about sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can't predict how a baby's going to sleep. You just can't do it because there's nothing like the holding her and rocking her to sleep and then slipping her into the bed used to work great. Like for the first 6 months, bassinet, we rock her to sleep, slip her into the bassinet, and then we transition. Maybe 9 months, we started transitioning her to the crib a little more, maybe 10 months. We're in there, and that still worked great. Get her to sleep, slip her
wait,
into the
9 months
bed.
adjusted, maybe a year
Yeah,
actual. She
yeah,
stayed in our room for a
and even
while.
that worked for quite a while, pretty well. But then she started figuring it out because she pays attention. So even if you rocked her to sleep, even if you got into the room and got to the bed, to the crib, without her waking up, even if you got her this far above the mattress, as soon as she touched it, her eyes shut open. She's like, oh no. And you'd have to take her back out and do it again. So finally, it was just like, this just is not going to work anymore. We're going to have to change the strategy or it's not going to happen. She's a very observant child. She pays attention and she makes a plan. And we managed to graduate her to just laying her down with very, I feel like very few road bumps, speed bumps or whatever. There were a few, there's always some transition time from laying your baby down instead of rocking them to sleep or whatever. She's definitely a tummy sleeper. She actually wakes up sometimes if she ends up on her back. That's enough sometimes to wake her up. I don't blame her. I hate sleeping on my back. I'm a side sleeper. She's a tummy sleeper. But overall, she's adjusted pretty well and she sleeps great. And it's awesome. Through the night, no problems. Big sister was a pretty good sleeper too. She's less of one now because she just lays in there awake sometimes. She's like, Dad, I can't go to sleep. I'm like, well, just close your eyes until you do. What if that doesn't work? Keep doing it. It'll work eventually. That's the joy of having an 11-year-old in the house. Do you have any other thoughts, Stephanie, that you want to share about holding Tally?
I mean, I don't think so. It's when you get to hold your preemie baby for the first time, whether they be a 25-weeker or a 35-weeker, and they have cords attached to them and they have feeding tubes, it can be scary, but the rewards are amazing. Just to have that actual bonding time, because I know when your baby's in the incubator and you don't get to hold them like you plan, you feel like you're not bonding and you feel like you're not going to have that bond. But when you finally get the time with your baby and you get to hold them, the bond will just automatically be there. Like it was never broken. But there were times when I was like, she's not going to know me. Like all I do is get to touch her through these holes, or I read her a book with the holes open. Like it wasn't the same. But as soon as we had those moments together, it was an immediate bond with her. So
And don't tell anybody at the hospital, but I would sneak my phone in through the holes to get better pictures. Just they don't need to know that. So it also didn't. I was actually afraid because of COVID. We had to wear masks in the hospital. I was like, how's she gonna know what our faces look like?
she didn't know until we came home.
Now, I mean, I still snuck, some peeks now and then, but otherwise, I was concerned that she wasn't gonna know what we look like. It's like she can't see our faces. She thinks Dad just looks like a really cool Mighty Morphin Power Ranger mask, which I had. So obviously, she could at least tell that Dad was cool.
Yeah.
That's not obvious already. But now we went from, skin to skin time to now she likes being tossed around the room and held upside down and doing flips on the bed and all that other stuff. So like she's come a long way.
She's definitely come a long way.
Mm-hmm. And fingers crossed on walking soon.
Yes.
She's almost where she wants to do it.
I don't know if she's almost. She's on her way.
She's not almost, I mean, she's not almost doing it. She's almost to where she thinks she might want to do it. She hasn't decided yet. She's still on the fence. She's like, yeah, maybe I don't want to do this today. And then she'll just, fight it. So we're wearing her down.
Yep.
So I think we're going to make it a shorter one this week. Next week, you wanted to talk about her eye surgery?
Yeah, we can talk about RSV.
Yeah.
Not RSV, I'm sorry.
ROP.
ROP.
Yeah, we didn't do that this week, but I was like, after the breeding weeks last week, let's do a happier one.
Yeah.
This week. So we talked about holding. Talked about her ROP, which is her
retinopathy of premature.
Yes, thank you. So we'll talk about her eyes and her surgery and even her continuing eye evaluation since then next week. So thanks for joining us. If you watch on YouTube, like and subscribe and share. And if you're downloading audio, make sure that you subscribe so you get the downloads of the new episodes automatically. Please leave a rating or a review and tell your friends. As always, if you have any questions, story you want to share, just don't want to feel, alone in some crazy early baby thing you're going through, please feel free to reach out. We're here. We're happy to answer questions or just tell you it's going to be okay, because it will be. Until next time, Stephanie.
Enjoy fall. Enjoy the fall weather. Yep. Get out to the pumpkin patches. Carve your pumpkins. Spend time with those little ones while they're little.
Yes. And if you're in Oklahoma like us, you'll get maybe another week of fall, and then it'll be like summer again. So, but I want to thank everybody for joining us here. Team Talley, Parental Pilgrimage with a Micro Preemie. Look, I got it right 2 times in the same show. Awesome. It's kind of a tongue twister. I didn't figure on that when I came up with it. So that's it for us this week. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Praying for you.